A massive earthquake hit eastern Afghanistan just before the midnight of August 31, causing a lot of damage to life and property. In this video, we will talk about a shallow earthquake, as this is believed to be the reason behind such a major destruction. Welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is Saloni Nankyoliar. Let's get started. So in an unfortunate incident, a 6.0 magnitude earthquake, it hit eastern Afghanistan, and at least 5 aftershocks followed the main quake. The epicenter is believed to be 27 kilometers from Jalalabad, and the depth was also very shallow, as it was only 8 kilometers. The province that was the hardest hit was the Kunar province. It borders Pakistan, and some 800 people died and close to 2,500 people were injured. Now, if you look at the magnitude of this earthquake, it was a moderate magnitude earthquake because the magnitude was 6.0. But if you compare it with the destruction, it does not match. So what could be the reason behind such a mismatch is what we will discuss in this video. But before we do that, let us quickly revise the basics of the earthquake. What is an earthquake and what are its types? Earthquake, as we know, is the sudden movement or sudden shaking of the earth's crust due to the release of energy from within. And this movement can be induced due to several factors. Based on that, we have different types of earthquakes, like the tectonic earthquakes, volcanic earthquakes, and human-induced earthquakes. So earthquakes, as you know, can be induced by both natural and man-made factors. So tectonic earthquakes are the earthquakes that are caused due to the sudden movement or sudden collision of these tectonic plates. So tectonic plates, when they converge, they diverge, or they move past each other, the shaking of earth that follows, it creates a tectonic earthquake. And these types of earthquakes are the most destructive types of earthquakes. Like the Bhuj earthquake that we saw in India was a tectonic earthquake. Next, we have volcanic earthquakes. Volcanic earthquakes are induced due to a volcanic eruption and the large-scale displacement of magma that follows. So they are mostly localized in nature in comparison to tectonic earthquakes. Volcanic earthquakes are localized in nature. And then we have human-induced earthquakes. So these are induced by man-made activities, like any nuclear test, any bomb explosion, construction of a dam, or collapse of a dam, or any mining activity. When they induce an earthquake, they fall under the category of human-induced earthquakes. So these are the different types of earthquakes. Now, if we talk about the most seismically active zone in the world, it is the Pacific Ring of Fire. So this is the place where we have the most amount of earthquakes. In fact, this is the place which has the most number of active volcanoes also. So this is the most seismically active zone also, and it also has roughly 75% of the most active volcanoes of the earth also. And why is it seismically the most active? Because it has a lot of convergent boundaries. There are a lot of tectonic plates here, different types of major plates, minor plates, they are found here. And this subduct also, it has a huge subduction zone also, and there's a large scale convergence of these plate boundaries also, and that is the reason that it is the most seismically active zone in the world, and it hosts about 75% of the active volcanoes in the world. Now, after this video, I want you to do a quick revision of the different active volcanoes that are found in the Pacific Ring of Fire and comment down any 2 active volcanoes that are found in this region. So these were the different types of earthquakes. Now, based on the depth of earthquake also, we have a categorization, like very shallow earthquakes, then shallow earthquakes, and deep earthquakes. So they are based on the placement of the focus of the earthquake. So when the focus is only 10 to 15 kilometers deep, we have a very shallow earthquake. Then if the focus is only up to 70 kilometers deep, we have a shallow earthquake. And if it is 300 kilometers, 70 to 300 kilometers or above, then we have a deep-seated earthquake or a deep focus earthquake. So what is the difference behind these different types of earthquakes? The placement of the focus is the main difference, but then it also differs in the intensity. It also creates a different type of intensity of the earthquake. For example, if it's a very shallow or a shallow earthquake, which means that the focus is placed very close to the surface, what do you think is going to happen? Let's say there is a shallow earthquake, and there is a deep focus earthquake. This is the Earth's crust, and here, if the focus is just here, and in this case the focus is somewhere here. Now if the focus is very close to the Earth's surface, the waves have a very short distance to travel. So they have a large scale energy that is still held within them, and it is not absorbed within the Earth's crust. It simply hits the Earth's surface with a lot of intensity because of the very short distance that it is traveling. So A, it will be localized because of the short distance that it is traveling, and B, it will have a very high intensity of destruction, again because of the short distance that it is traveling, versus a deep-seated or a deep focus earthquake. This has a lot of area. These waves, they have a lot of space, a lot of area to travel. So in that area, a lot of energy is absorbed or released within the Earth's crust only, and then only a minor part of it reaches the Earth's surface. So these types of earthquakes, A, that will have a larger impact, which means they'll cover a larger surface area because of the movement of these waves in different directions and the large scale distance that they are traveling. But B, their intensity is going to be low in comparison to shallow or very shallow earthquakes, because a lot of energy is already absorbed within the Earth's surface. It does not reach the Earth's surface, it is absorbed within itself. So this is the difference between a shallow earthquake and a deep focus earthquake, and it was a reason. So in Afghanistan's case also, in fact, it was a very shallow earthquake because the focus was only 8 kilometers deep, and that is why the intensity of destruction was very high and the area was also localized. So intensity, because of the small surface area that it had to cover, the intensity was very high, and that is why the destruction also was very high despite of it being a moderate magnitude earthquake. One reason was the shallow quake, and the second reason for the destruction was the poor infrastructure and the challenging terrain of Afghanistan. So this kind of a magnitude, if it would have hit a good construction building or a strongly constructed building, it would not have caused such a damage. But because Afghanistan has very poor construction, the area where this was happening, that had very poorly constructed buildings or very poorly constructed infrastructure, that is why also the destruction here was huge. So these were the two main reasons behind this major destruction. First was the shallow focus, and second was the poor infrastructure of Afghanistan. And why do you think this kind of an infrastructure still exists in Afghanistan? Because of the Taliban rule. So ever since Taliban came back in 2021, the countries and the international organizations, they have lost their support, or they've lost their confidence in Afghanistan. So they're not providing them with international aid or with financial aid because Taliban's rule is not appreciated by the world. In fact, Taliban's government is not officially recognized by most of the countries because Taliban's rule is very restrictive in nature, mainly because of the restrictions that they place on women. Women are not allowed to work in NGOs or UN agencies, and most of these donor countries, the countries that were giving these humanitarian aid or financial assistance to Afghanistan, they're all European countries, and it does not sit well with this concept of providing or putting restrictions on women. It does not sit well with the European countries, and that is also one of the reasons that these countries are now cutting down their aid to Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. So much so that there has been a 80% reduction in the aid that Afghanistan used to get pre and post Taliban rule. So that is also one of the reasons that Afghanistan has poorly constructed buildings or poor infrastructure, because it does not have the money to create or develop or invest in its development activities, and countries and international organizations are also not providing it with enough fund simply because of the restrictive policies of Taliban, especially on women. So that was all about this video. It's a very unfortunate incident, and we hope for the speedy recovery of the people who have been injured and pray for the souls of departed. Now let us practice a question for prelims. Which of the following statements about earthquakes is or are correct? Shallow focus earthquakes are generally more destructive than deep focus earthquakes. Earthquakes can occur due to both natural causes and human-induced causes. The majority of the world's earthquakes occur along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Select the correct answer. 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1 and 3 only, all of the above. Please provide your answers in the comment section, and we will meet in the next video.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.